In my previous video, I showed you how and why a wide tree can break through brick walls. The strategy is to track the siblings of your ancestors, their spouses, and go down to their descendants. The problem as you go down is that you will hit a new kind of brick wall. The census stops, the birth and marriage records aren't available. Here's why. Most countries protect the privacy of anyone who might still be alive, so records within the last 100 years or so are sealed. This is where obituaries and newspaper articles take over for family tree research. They're voluntarily published, so the privacy walls don't apply to them, and a single obituary can name an entire family, spouses, children, grandchildren. But there's a catch. A lot of what you'll find online isn't the original obituary. It's a copy, sometimes an edited one, sitting on a memorial site. If you trust the wrong copy, you can send your whole research down the wrong path. Hi, I'm Margaret. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use obituaries, death notices, and memorial sites to push past the point where public records aren't available, and how to make sure what you're reading is actually true. Let's start with graveyard and memorial websites, because they're the easiest entry point into this material. Find a Grave is the big one. It's a volunteer-built database of graveyards and memorials from all over the world. Ancestry now owns it, which is why it shows up so often in your hints if you have an ancestry tree. There are others too, like the Billion Graves Index and Family Search, plus smaller sites focused on specific cemeteries or regions. My first tip is on how to format your searches. Don't search for one person at a time. Search for a specific cemetery along with a specific surname. Families often bury their dead close together. This wider search can surface names you didn't even know to look for. Look for a cluster of the same surname in one plot. Then you can cross-check the birth and death dates against your own census and birth, marriage, death research. Here's a tip that's easy to skip if you're moving fast through search results. When a memorial site shows you a birthplace, especially for an immigrant ancestor, don't just look at the text field. Look for a photo of the actual headstone if one's been uploaded. Transcribers aren't always familiar with the spelling, geography, or language of the place someone was born. A birthplace can get garbled into something that looks close but isn't quite right, and a text search for the wrong spelling will send you nowhere. The photo is your check. If a volunteer's uploaded a clear image of the stone, you can read the birthplace yourself and catch an error before it sends your research down the wrong path. A quick pause before the next tip. I've put all 8 of these tips into a free 2-page cheat sheet you can keep beside you while you research. The link is in the description. Pop in your email and it lands straight in your inbox along with my weekly newsletter. Right, back to it, because the next tip is the one that saves you from the biggest mistake people make with these sites. My next tip is to treat what's on the memorial sites as a lead to the official obituaries. It's a lead, not a source, until you've corroborated it. The reason for caution is that these sites are built entirely on what volunteers upload, and that can create problems. There can be competition between some volunteers about getting a memorial up in a hurry. That's before anyone's confirmed who's actually related to who. Other times, someone finds an obituary elsewhere, copies it onto the site, and edits it along the way. Not maliciously, just carelessly. So the version you're reading might not match what was actually published. What you really want is to find the actual obituary itself. So how do you find the original obituary instead of a copy someone may have altered? Here's my search tip. Take a distinctive sentence from the obituary you found and drop it into a search engine wrapped in quotation marks. You're looking for an exact match. If you're lucky, that leads you straight to the original publication. If it's behind a newspaper paywall, don't give up. Check whether a funeral home has posted a copy on their own site. A family website or even a company website might have a copy too. Just use your judgment, because the further a copy is from the original source, the more chance it's been changed. My next tip is to look for the condolence messages. Don't stop reading the obituary after the main text. Funeral home websites often let visitors leave condolence messages. Find a Grave allows comments too. These are genuinely valuable, because people signing a condolence book tend to identify themselves in relation to the deceased. There's a niece. That's a co-worker of 40 years. That's a grandson living 3 states away. You're getting a snapshot of a family's living relatives that the obituary itself might not spill out. But there is a catch. Some memorial sites want payment before showing you older messages. But you can try a different route in. Try putting the URL into the Internet Archive to get at the page when it was still public. Here's a source that's easy to overlook. Figuring out how a piece of land or a family burial plot actually passed down through the generations. A shared family plot in a graveyard often wasn't bought by one person for their own use. It was bought to hold a whole family, sometimes across multiple generations. If you can find out who purchased the plot and who's buried in it over time, you can often trace the line of descent that the standard birth, marriage, and death records never spell out directly. The same goes for property. A house, a farm, a small piece of land that stayed in the family. Tracing how it moved from owner to owner, whether through a will, a deed, or simple inheritance, can answer a question the direct line alone can't. How did this end up with us? This kind of research usually means digging into wills, probate records, and property deeds, rather than the census or vital records you've been relying on. It's slower going, but it can expose a line of descent or a family connection you'd never have found any other way. For this next tip, we're going offline. If you can, it's worth visiting the local library in the towns that the family you're researching lived. These libraries often hold publications that never make it onto the internet. A centenary book published by the local school, a list of graveyard markers compiled by the Historical Society. Material like this can name people, dates, and relationships that no online database has. You usually can't borrow these books, and libraries won't always let you run them through their own scanner because there might only be one copy. But most will let you photograph the pages with your phone. Always strike up a conversation with the local librarian to let them tell you what they have. At some point, you'd probably want to pay for a newspaper archive directly. Newspapers.com is the big one, owned by Ancestry but run as its own separate site. Here's the mistake people make. They subscribe first and search second. My tip in terms of saving money is to do it the other way round. Build a target list before you pay for anything. Names, places, rough date ranges, everyone you actually want to search for. Then start your subscription or free trial once that list is ready. So you're using every day of paid access efficiently. One more thing to expect with newspapers. The newspaper search relies on OCR, the technology that reads scanned text. Old newsprint doesn't scan cleanly, so search quality is noticeably rougher than what you're used to on standard genealogy records. Budget more time than you think you'll need and try several spellings or phrases if you can't initially find what you're looking for. So that's your toolkit for pushing past the point where public records run out because of a privacy wall. Between this video and the last one, you've now got a full approach for working past a brick wall ancestor. Build a wide tree first, then go deep by letting obituaries, newspapers, libraries, and property records carry you into the generation that never made it into open records. If you want all 8 tips in one place, grab the free cheat sheet linked in the description. Signing up for it also gets you my weekly newsletter, where I share the finds and the record sets that don't make it into these videos. One link, 2 useful things. If this helped, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Hope to see you back here again, and best of luck in your family research.